Hello and welcome to a DFS strategy video for the 2022 Travelers Championship. My name is Eric and here at SweetSpotDFS, it's all about trying to hit the optimal lineup every single week. In the preview video I put out yesterday, we went over all the stats you wanted to build your lineups around. This video, we're going to use those stats to find the golfers we want to build our lineups around. We'll also be using the help from the SweetSpot ranks, the Marquee tee time pairings, as well as the anchor buckets to help us narrow down on the correct players for this week. But before we get into this strategy video, I'll remind you guys of all the giveaways that I'm running. The first one being a subscriber giveaway. We are currently at the goal of 400 subscribers, but I caution you because this Sunday we got up to 400, and then before I recorded this, it dropped down, or I should say, before I recorded the preview video, it dropped down to 399, of course. Therefore, we didn't hit our goal. So if you're one of those that are on the fringe, like, I'm not sure if I want to subscribe or not, just subscribe. Let's get this way over 400. That way we run this giveaway during Monday's video, or Monday night's video, the preview for the John Deere Classic. Someone will win $30 then. And if you want an entry into that giveaway, be subscribed, comment down below, give me your two favorite golfers that you're going to play you're going to build your lineups around this week, and you'll get a free entry that way. If you want an additional one, share this on Twitter. And if you want more, comment on the preview video I put out yesterday, and also comment on the prize picks video I'll put out tomorrow. That way you can get 4 free entries this week for the giveaway. That way you have a good chance to win $30 this week. The second giveaway that I'm doing is a prize picks giveaway. If you haven't signed up for prize picks yet, I have a link in the description below that'll get you straight to the sign up page, and it'll already populate that SweetSpot promo code in there while you're signing up. That way it saves you a couple keystrokes. If you do that and you put $20 in your account, I'm going to give you $20 back. That way you can play prize picks for free, and prize picks will match your deposit up to $100. So that 20 turns into 40, and really all it's going to cost you is that initial deposit plus sign up information. Super simple, super easy. Again, link in the description below. Another thing you'll find in the description below is a link to the cheat sheet. I'll throw that on the screen right now. This entire video that I'll be going over, I'll be referencing this exact sheet. It'll be my own, of course, but you can have access to this and follow along with me throughout this video. Not only can you follow along with the dream sheet, but I also have the bucket system here attached too. So you can follow me while going over all of this information. I would just recommend right away to go up to the file menu, make a copy. That way you can modify it and use the filters that I have on this cheat sheet. Otherwise, if you can't, or if you don't do that, you won't be able to put a filter on it. You won't be able to modify it however you'd like. So highly recommend you go do that. Again, link in the description below. Another thing that I am providing is an optimizer. I will be showcasing this at the end of the video. There's also a video in the description below. There's a lot of stuff in the description, so I'd highly recommend glancing over that to see what's all available for you guys. But there is a video on how to use this optimizer down there, so if you are interested, maybe go check that out. Maybe it'll get you more interested. But it comes preloaded with all of the criteria that I look at when I build lineups, including the buckets, as well as the marquee tee times that are available on here. So I highly, highly encourage you guys, if you do want this optimizer, first of all, be subscribed. Comment down below. Doesn't matter what it is, but if you need a topic, like I said before, give me your 2 favorite golfers you're building your lineups around this week. And then you're going to have to email me at SweetSpotDFS@gmail.com because I can't see your email address through your YouTube account. Most of us don't put that information to public. So you're going to have to reach out to me at SweetSpotDFS@gmail.com. You literally only have to say, hey, I'd like to use your optimizer, and I'll send it your way. As simple as that. As long as, if I can tell your username and your email address are kind of the same, then there's no questioning. Otherwise, I might ask you who you are on YouTube, and therefore I can verify if you're subscribed and you commented on any of my videos. It's all about rewarding those who participate on this channel. So that's what I'm about. That's what I want to do with these giveaways. So let's go ahead, let's get into this video. I'll pull up my spreadsheet and we're gonna get right into the SweetSpot ranks. So let me go ahead, sort this by the rankings. You can see Rory McIlroy is my #1 golfer in my model this week. I'll tell you how I came to my rankings. We'll go over my scoring model. I use the official World Golf Ranking, which I think is a solid way to figure out who the best golfers are. It's basically looking at the last 2 years and how well each golfer has performed. That goes into this official World Golf Ranking, so it's giving you more consistency with this model, and I think it's a good stat to include. I'm then looking at 2 different grass stats, one being bent grass, and I forgot to update grass number 2. That would be Pete Dye. So these are Pete Dye results. We're looking at overall average dating back to 2013. We're looking at their top 10 success rate, so basically their frequency of finishing inside the top 10. And then we're looking at last year grass stats for both bent grass as well as Pete Dye stats. So those apply to all of those stats. One thing I forgot to mention, in some of these like season-long stats or 2-year-long stats, the points, the closer to 100, the better the golfer is. So you can see Scottie Scheffler, #1 golfer in the world, he has 100 points provided to him. And then Rory's like number 3, number 2, number 3, something like that. So he's getting 99.67. With these other stats, I'm actually watering them down by half of their point total. So basically, the closer to 50 any of these golfers are in these stats, the better they are in that stat category. I'm also looking at tournament history, which we can just call course history at this event. It's just tournament history is something that covers all types of either event history, course history, whatever you want to call it. But we can call it course history this week because it's been the same golf course dating back to 2013, and that's as far back as where my stats go. I'm also watering that down, so 50 is your best score you can get. Then I'm looking at bogey avoidance, birdie or better, and driving distance. To me, driving distance is your max potential of scoring on a golf course. The longer you hit it, the shorter club you're going to have into the green, plus the longer distances into the green, you'll be using shorter clubs for those as well. I'm not saying accuracy doesn't mean anything, but I'm looking for max potential, and that is included with driving distance. So we're looking at those 3 season-long stats, and then I'm looking at DK points average, or I should say this. These 3 stats that I'm highlighting here, these are my recent form stats. These go back the last 7 weeks, not including this week. If you include this week, we're going back the last 8 weeks. So we're looking at the DraftKings points average, their recent form, which is their average finishing position, and their round-by-round scoring average. And again, I'm watering this down where 50 points is your best point total you can get in the stat. And then we're looking at season-long stats, DraftKings points, round-by-round scoring average, rounds under 70%, cut-made percentage, as well as DK top 10. 100 points is the highest score you can get here. That all equals to a total, and that total then represents the ranking. So, your #1 golfer, again, Rory McIlroy, 1,200 points, basically. 1,286 is what his total is. Justin Thomas is 30 points behind him, and then Patrick Cantlay is 70 points behind him. So those are your top 3. And then you can see of all the golfers that score 1,000 and higher, it goes down to Aaron Wise. So this is not super close. You definitely have your top. I mean, Scheffler and Burns basically score the same, and they are all within 100 points of Rory McIlroy. So keep that all in mind. This is no way me saying Rory's my favorite golfer. He's just my best golfer in my model. But this is just for whatever you guys want to use it for. I obviously use it in my optimizer, but I usually anchor around players, so it all depends on who I like. Now, I'm going to go ahead and sort this back by salary. Keep an eye out for, I always like to see what's on the first page. The last golfer on the first page, Brian Harman, is that guy, $8,600. Now, when I resort this back by ranking, the SweetSpot rank, anybody who's under 8,600 that shows up to me is a value. And then I like to see what happens with the 9K and the 10K just to see where everybody sorts out. And then the very first thing to see is who's under $8,600. it'd be Mark Leishman at $8,400. Nobody else is under $8,600 that shows up on page one. So basically everybody, when it comes to salary, matches my rankings. So me and DraftKings are kind of on the same page when it comes to the best golfers in the field this week. That's kind of like I haven't figured out if that's a positive or a negative, because it's always great to see like really like differences in pricing, because that way you can really take advantage of someone who might be mispriced. But in a way, I kind of like this, because in a way, for me, it's validating, I guess. I don't even know so much so say it's validating, because my rankings are my rankings. They've always been, I've basically been using the same model for the last 2 months, 3 months. And this is the first time DraftKings has been this close. We've been talking about it recently, about how close DraftKings is with their salary rankings versus my SweetSpot rankings. This is the closest it's ever been. So I think we can really basically pick our 2 golfers that we really like from this range, and then build the rest of our lineups out from there. You got your 6 10K golfers all at the top 6, so that's always good to see, because that's where they should be. And there's really nothing else to discuss. Like, there's not, Brooks Koepka at 9,300, that might be, overpriced, but everyone else is pretty much in line. So kind of cool. Now, I use these SweetSpot ranks. I use the SweetSpot ranks to figure out what my marquee tee time pairings are. And how I do that is I take the total of a pairing. So this very first group, Justin Thomas, Xander Schauffele, and Tom Hoge, I take their cumulative SweetSpot rank. First of all, I add them up, and then I rank them based off of what is the lowest score. So your number one group is JT, Xander, Tom Hoge. Now, if their cumulative score is under 102, which is just an arbitrary number, how I get there is I take the field size and I multiply that by 66%, or 0.66, and that gets you a number of 102. So if every group, or of all the groups whose cumulative score is under 102, they're part of the marquee tee time. So Fleetwood, Tringali, and Emiliano Grillo are the last 3 golfers. They're the last 3 golfers in the marquee tee times. The groups right underneath them are very interesting. Scotty Scheffler, Jordan Spieth, and Zach Johnson. The only reason this isn't a marquee tee time is because of Zach Johnson. He's kind of pulling everyone down. He's pulling this group down because of his bad ranking. And then under that is Joaquin Niemann, Keith Mitchell, and Kramer Hickok, who got second place last year. He lost in that playoff against Harris English. So that one's a really close one too, but these are what I call honorable mention groups. And you can do with them as you will. I really like Jordan Spieth this week, so I'll be playing golfers that are Jordan Spieth. But to go back to the marquee tee times, why does this matter? Well, over the last year, I have been tracking this, and basically, if I were to, let me highlight these by each pairing. I've been tracking this over the last year, and on average, somewhere between 2 to 4 golfers show up inside the optimal lineup from my marquee tee times. And since I'm always chasing the optimal lineup, it's a good place to start. It's a good place to try to figure out who your anchor plays are. So I was trying to think about this, like how do I want to go? And if you were with me in the preview video, you knew I had said starting with a lineup construction of a 10K, a 9K, and 8K, 7K, a 7K, and a 6K is the way to go. That's your traditional lineup build for a GPP lineup. So I want to start at a 10K. And the great thing about this week, of all the pairings, is there's separate lineups with 10Ks in it, or separate groupings with 10Ks in it, except for the Justin Thomas, Xander Schauffele group. So I'll highlight all those 10Ks, 10K and above, that is. So you can see them all right here. Scotty Scheffler is in that honorable mention. We'll get to that group a little bit later. But you can actually start here and choose who your favorite 10K golfer is, first of all, and then find your other anchor play to go with that. Now, the other rule when it comes to these marquee tee times, Not only do you want to select somewhere between 2 to 4 of these golfers in the marquee tee times, but you also don't want to select golfers from the same group. So like if you do like Rory McIlroy, don't pair him up with Webb Simpson. You certainly can, don't get me wrong, but the odds aren't in your favor. I think over the last 60 weeks, only 4 times was there a pairing that had 2 golfers in the optimal lineup. So I don't advocate for that. I don't think you should do something like that. I think you should play the odds and don't select 2 golfers from the same group. That's my personal opinion. So with that, when I'm trying to figure out who my anchor plays are this week, you know, I start with those 10Ks and I'm trying to figure out who do I like the most out of the 10Ks. And really, I couldn't figure it out. I mean, Cantlay just right away was one of my favorites to select from, but I thought of a different way. I shouldn't even say should I, but all of these pairings, I came up with kind of a new rule. If you like multiple golfers in a pairing, you should probably avoid anchoring any of the golfers in that pairing. Now, there's a difference here because Xander and Justin Thomas are 10K golfers. You really only want one 10K golfer in your lineup. So that's either Justin or it's Xander. And it's great because if you were to select Xander, then you just cross out JT from your list and he's not going to be in any of your lineups, which is good. But let's say you liked Rory and you also liked Webb and you also like Kevin Kisner. I would say this: don't pair any of those guys up together. Like, don't anchor around any of those golfers. Likewise, Sam Burns, Keegan Bradley, Joel Damon. Now, personally for me, I like Keegan Bradley this week. I like Webb Simpson this week. I also like Sungjae and Tony Finau this week. So these first few groups, I've already decided I can't anchor around any of them because I like too many of the golfers in those groups. When it comes to the Patrick Cantlay, Mark Leishman, and Harris English lineup, I really don't like Leishman that much this week, and I really don't like Harris English this week. So it's an easy, right away slam dunk, anchoring around Patrick Cantlay. Mark Leishman is kind of interesting. Like, I don't mind playing Leishman this week, but usually what I do is I anchor around 2 golfers in 90% of my lineups. The other 10% are the golfers I'm not anchoring around, and it usually starts with a 10K. So Mark Leishman will probably be in those 10% lineups, and that's cool. If he is rostered 10%, like if the optimizer selects him in 10% of lineups, I'm okay with that. Not a big deal. But he's not a golfer I feel like I'm going to get burned with this week. So that very first golfer I'm anchoring around is going to be Patrick Cantlay. And then I can't decide what I want to do after that because a lot of these other groups I really like, you know, other golfers. Actually, let me rewind that because Tommy Fleetwood would be in the last marquee tee time, and I don't care for Cameron Tringali, and I don't care for Emiliano Grillo this week. So my eyes kind of divert to both Cantlay and Fleetwood. Now, I really like Jordan Spieth this week as well. So I kind of want to build lineups there, but he's technically not in the marquee tee times, and I want to select 2 to 4. So if I go with Spieth and I don't go with Fleetwood, then I would probably need to find an 8K or a 7K golfer that I want to anchor around. And when I look at this, I'm just not sure who I like in the 7 or the 8K range that I do want to anchor around. So with that being said, I think it might be hard for me to get to Fleetwood. I want to, don't get me wrong. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's going to be hard to get to Spieth. I want to, but I don't think I can because I don't like enough of the 7 or 8Ks in the marquee tee times. So I might just avoid Jordan Spieth and go Tommy Fleetwood. The other option I'm thinking about is sticking with Patrick Cantlay and then just looking at all of the 9K golfers that are in the marquee tee times. Maybe I just have the optimizer start with Cantlay, anchor him in all my lineups, and then allow the optimizer to select from the other 5 9K golfers in the marquee tee times and just leave it at that. Maybe I even sprinkle in some Jordan Spieth and just see what the optimizer does with, you know, when I set the rules to have 2 to 4 marquee tee times, and I'll show you that's on this right here. I'm selecting between 2 to 5, but I'm actually going to change this back to 4. So right here, I'm making sure it picks 2, but no more than 4. So we'll build lineups a little later, like I said, but that's kind of my thought process. And you guys can follow along with me. I don't think we're going to dupe each other. And yeah, I think even if we do, we get to share in the successes, right? It's not that big of a deal. My buddy, Mr. Guru Nick, he took down the 50 cent, the micro, I forget what it's called, but that 150 max GPP for 50 cents for each lineup or whatever. He took that down, but he duped another lineup. He still won $4,000. First place prize was $6,000. Second place prize was $2,000. When you tie, you combine those things together, and then you split them. So he won $4,000. The other guy won $4,000, and then he also had like third place or fourth place, so he won $1,000 there, and then he had like sixth place, which was like $500. I asked him, I'm like, "Are you really that disappointed that you got duped?" He's like, "Well, part of me says yes, but part of me doesn't say yes." I would say this. I know you know first place prize is $6,000, but you're really only losing out on $2,000, and you still hit it pretty big, you know? So you also get to say that you won a GPP. You tied for first. A tie for first is still first in these GPP contests. There's no tiebreaker. So you got first in a GPP. That is the goal, is it not? So either way, we're not going to dupe. And even if we do, who cares? Like I said, we get to share in the successes. So that's my thought process. Start with Cantlay, and then I'm trying to find a 9K golfer I want to build around. And like Sung Jae and Tony seem very viable. So does Tommy Fleetwood. Maybe I just choose between those 3 guys. We'll see. Moving on from the marquee tee times. Well, I should say this. Let me repeat something. Select 2 to 4 golfers from those marquee tee times. Again, you can follow along in the cheat sheet because those are all also available there. So if I go here, you can see they're right here under the group ranks. All you got to do is put a filter on this and sort by that group rank so you can figure out which ones are your marquee tee times. Yeah, and go from there. Select 2 to 4 and don't select the same golfer from the same team, or don't select more than 2. I'm sorry, don't select 2 or more golfers from the same group. There we go. That's what it is. Let's move on to the anchor buckets, which again, you can follow along on that cheat sheet and, you know, apply the filter, go to the filter, go down to the bucket system. I already started this. The first thing you're going to do, let me actually just open this up so you can see it. So now all of the buckets are, nope. There we go. Now all the buckets are available. I hid these columns here because they're just noise right now. We don't need to look at these, but they are available for you. You get to see all the frequencies for top 5s, top 20s, and cuts made. So you can look at all that information if you want. That's all available. But I'm going to just leave it right here. Hide all those columns and just show you this. So when you do put those filters on, you can see we have all 6 stat categories with all 6 buckets for each of them. So all 36 buckets. First stop to do is go to this year's bucket totals, put a condition on there, go less than or equal to 30. This is just making choosing golfers that much easier, because when it's more than 30 golfers in a bucket, it's really hard to anchor down on any of them. The second stop we're doing is we're going to this max projection column, and we're going to greater than or equal to 2. So put these conditions in, and that way we can follow along and do these buckets. Now, there's one new piece that I really haven't discussed. I think I did last week at the US Open, but I added this miscellaneous information box, average salary, salaries greater than 9K, and then the 9K percentage for a reason. So there was a tournament, I think it was the RBC Canadian Open. It could have been, yeah, it was the RBC Canadian Open, where Rory finished first and then Tony finished second. I wanted to anchor my lineups around Tony Finau and Rory McIlroy, but I couldn't build more lineups. My optimizer kept breaking, and here's why. So I'm going to use this bucket as my example. Last week ones. If I go to last week ones, and if I just remove everybody but the last week one, sort this back by salary. There are 4 golfers in the 10K range and above. If I don't anchor around any of these 10K golfers, it's going to be really hard to choose golfers from this bucket. And the reason being is I'm projecting somewhere between 1 to 3 golfers from this bucket to finish inside the top 10. What happens if 2 of these golfers here finish inside the top 10, but not in the top 5? The projections still work, but you can't build your lineups around them. You're not going to win a GPP that way. And if you don't anchor around these golfers, now you're kind of stuck. And by the way, if you don't anchor around these 6 golfers, including the 9K golfers, now you're only stuck with these 6 golfers at the bottom. And more than likely, you're stuck with the 4 golfers from the 7K range and below, which means if you want 100 unique lineups and you want to grab 1 golfer from this bucket, you're more likely going to have to set your exposures to 25% or greater for each of these golfers here. Otherwise, once you get to that moment where the optimizer goes, oh, hey, we don't have enough golfers to choose from this bucket, especially when we're telling it we want at least 1, it's going to error out. It's going to say we can't do this because there are no other golfers that are going to satisfy that condition. You know, when we put that condition in to say we want at least 1 golfer, once these exposure levels get met, these golfers get removed from the pool. The optimizer won't select it, and it won't have enough salary left over to play any of these golfers here. So a new rule that I created was, if this average is over 8,300 and then the percentage is greater than 50, or it's greater than or equal to 50, we drop the minimum projection down by 1. So if you recall, these minimum projections, we always round down. So you'll see 1.38, 1.43. Sometimes they get up to 1.9. We still round down to 1. Conversely, with the max projection, we always round up. So it could be 2.02, like this one here. This gets rounded up to 3. Doesn't matter. It gets rounded up to 3. And it provides a good threshold of projections to pick golfers from. At least it's a good way to select golfers. The projection still is going to say 1 to 3. And if we end up having 3, perfect. If we only have 1, it still fits. It's still successful. And likewise, even if this gets bumped down to 0, which I am bumping this minimum down to 0, but the max is up to 3, it still works. If we can still see 1 to 3 golfers inside the top 10, it's just that 1 golfer might be a 10K golfer you're not anchoring your lineups around. And maybe it finishes 9th place. Maybe it finishes 10th place. Still fits. The projections still are successful, but you can't build a lineup around that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and take 50% or greater out of here. Here, before I actually do that, I already know I'm going to build my lineup around Patrick Cantlay. So he's already a strokes gained 1. He's already a last week 1. If we go back here and we look, when it comes to strokes gained 1, we want at least 2 golfers in there. And when it comes to last week 1, we want at least 1 golfer. So I am anchoring my lineup, and especially with these 10K golfers, we want at least 1 there. I already want these golfers in my lineup. Or I shouldn't say these golfers. I want a golfer that satisfies these buckets in my lineup. So when I filter out, because I'm going to go ahead and just say we're not selecting anyone 50% or higher, we already have 1 strokes gained 1 golfer. So that one's already satisfied. We already have 1 last week 1 golfer. That's already satisfied. And we already have 1 10K golfer. That one's already satisfied. So I don't have to worry about what I just told you about because we already have all of those golfers there. So now when we filter out the 50% or greater, now we're stuck with 4 anchor buckets. So hopefully that all made sense and it didn't, confuse or hold any of you guys back. So now we just need to find golfers that fit these buckets here. So the very first one we're going to look at is last week 1, not last week 1, last year 1. And by the way, if you're not familiar with the bucket system, there is a video in the description below that explains all about it. So I would highly recommend you go watch that. Last tier ones, guess what? We already have Patrick Cantlay. This bucket says we want at least 1 to 3 golfers from it, so boom, Patrick Cantlay is my guy. But if we're building more lineups, or I should say, if we want more golfers that fit this bucket, we can select up to 2 more. Probably not going to. I'm certainly not gonna, anchor around anything. But obviously, Brian Harmon was spoke about a lot in all of the podcasts this week. He is a course horse, or he's a course horse for this golf course. So is Jason Day. I wouldn't mind playing either of those guys. They're both in the 8K range. You can build lineups around them pretty easily. I also like Sepp Straka this week. I don't mind Kevin Kisner. Remember, Harris English and Mark Leishman are playing with Patrick Cantlay. They're all in the same group. So right away, just by osmosis, Leishman and English, I'm cutting out, so I can't select them. So it kind of remains with these guys. And some of these 6K golfers, I don't mind. I like Andrew Putnam, believe it or not. I like Kramer Hickok. I like Bo Hosler. I also really like Hinckley Biota, and the other 2 I don't really care for, but they're doable. Like that, you can put them in your lineups. I'm not going to spend a lot of time trying to fit those golfers in my lineup. I'll let the optimizer do that, and I have no problem rostering any of those golfers. So last year ones, for me, already established by using Patrick Cantlay. He checks that box for me. I'll have at least one golfer from that bucket, so all things good there. The other one is last week 2s. We want somewhere between 1 to 3 from this bucket. So last week 2s. JT and Sam Burns basically just get removed because, they're in the 10K range. So it's difficult to put them with Patrick Cantlay since Cantlay is also in the 10K range. So these guys kind of just already get eliminated. Which is very interesting because that leaves Jordan Spieth as a 9K golfer to consider. And remember, I do want to play Jordan Spieth in my lineups. It's just hard to get to the other Marquee Tee Time golfers, to match with Patrick Cantlay. But I do really like Davis Riley, as do a lot of people this week. I also really like Aaron Wise, as do a lot of people this week. I don't mind going back to Cage Lee. The guy is solid. I'll play Cage Lee this week. There's Putnam again. We already talked about him. Mackenzie Hughes has played this golf course pretty well in the past, and I don't mind someone like a Matthew Neesmith. He is a part of the anchor or the Marquee Tee Times. It's not nothing, I don't mind playing him, and he might be a good one to pair up with Patrick Cantlay, believe it or not. So when it comes to last week 2s, depends on what you want to do. There's Justin Thomas and Sam Burns. If you're into those 10Ks and not Patrick Cantlay, go check them out. We've got 2 more buckets to look at, Course History 2 and Recent Form 2. Both of these are 2 to 4. So, Course History 2. I think Cantlay might be here. He is. So, boom, we already have 1. So, we need 1 more. And really, there's Brian Harmon I like quite a bit. I already told you about Webb Simpson. I don't mind playing him. Remember, he's in that Rory McIlroy group. I really like Maverick McNeely this week. He plays short golf courses really well, and his value is pretty high. I don't mind Kevin Kisner. I think he's also in that Webb Simpson and Rory McIlroy group. There's Andrew Putnam once again. Now, the more a golfer's in these anchor buckets, the better chance they have to finish inside or to finish as an optimal lineup golfer. Does not guarantee they'll be an optimal lineup golfer. It just improves their chances. So I like that. But you also have a lot of good 6K golfers. I don't mind Doc Redman. I don't mind Charlie Hoffman. Kramer Hickok once again. Steven Yeager. I like him. As Reeve has won this tournament before, kind of when he was 2017, 2018, when he was playing this golf course really well. I think he had a 1st place finish, a 5th place finish. He's not a bad play at $7,200. But I think a lot of people will gravitate towards Brendan Steele or Brendan Todd. They're great golfers to choose from. There's Jason Day once again. So this is a really good bucket to choose from. Remember, you want 2 to 4 golfers from that one. And when we look at recent form 2s, let's see who's here. Patrick Cantlay, once again. So Cantlay is in every single anchor bucket that I have this week. Again, that does not guarantee an optimal lineup. That just improves his chances. So I don't want to overexcite you guys and say you have to play Patrick Cantlay. But I'm playing Patrick Cantlay this week in 90% of my lineups no matter what. Then we have Sung J M, that I don't mind being a 9K golfer to add with Cantlay. Same goes with Finau. Same goes with Bradley. Oh, hey, there's Aaron Wise, Brian Harmon. We already talked about Jason Day, Brendan Todd, Brendan Steele. So there, I think it's the writing's on the wall of the golfers that I like quite a bit this week, and that I don't mind pairing up and building lineups with. So those are all of the anchor buckets. Let's go into lineup building. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing this. I will already let you know I built 25 lineups. I just wanted to see what happened if I gave 100% to Rory, 100% to JT, exposure, that is, I'm sorry, 100% to Cantlay, and 100% to Jordan Spieth to see what the optimizer would select between those 4 guys. Because I was kind of like wondering who I wanted to anchor my lineups around. What would the optimizer do if it had the option to choose between those 4 golfers freely? No exposures, anything. So this doesn't, and I didn't lock anybody in. So it selected Cantlay 64% of the time. The next closest was Jordan Spieth at 20%. The other guys that I set at 100%, Rory at 8%, and Justin Thomas at 16%. So the optimizer ranked it basically Cantlay number 1, Spieth number 2, Thomas number 3, and Rory number 4. Again, they had unlimited exposures. Scotty Scheffler, I had 21% as an exposure. Optimizer didn't even select him once. Same goes with Xander Schauffele, who, I mean, he's not a high rank golfer in my book. He's the 6th ranked 10K golfer. He's also, by salary standards, the 6th ranked 10K golfer. But it did not select him. It did select Jordan Spieth. It did select Sung J M, and it did select Joaquin Niemann, 20% each. Really liked Wise. Really liked Leishman, by the way, which I would not pair up with Patrick Cantlay. So 20% of the time, the optimizer selected him. Only selected Cantlay 64% of the time. So there's still wiggle room there. And I'm not going to go through all the rest of them, but when it comes to figuring out who I wanted to anchor around, I wasn't sure. I mean, I kind of was leaning towards Cantlay, but the optimizer really put me on Cantlay. So just wanted to show you all of that. Again, I have all the buckets in here preset, all the anchor buckets. I don't think we need a 9K. That's not an anchor we need to play around. So here's what I'm going to do. I will select Cantlay as my anchor, and I am going to allow it. I think all of these are 22% or something like that. So I'm gonna build 10 lineups, and I'm gonna allow the optimizer to freely choose between any of these 9K golfers and try to determine who might be the best 9K golfer to build my lineup. So we'll go ahead and build 10 lineups just to see what this does. Might take a little while. Let's see. But yeah, as this is building lineups, I guess my thought process is I'm comfortable going with the 10K, 9K this week. But because of how high quality the 9K range is, I don't think there's really any issues selecting any of these 9K golfers. Like I said, I really do like Spieth. I like Sung Jae. Niemann's a high quality golfer. Finau was knocking at the door at the RBC Canadian Open. Keegan Bradley, not a terrible golfer. Probably going to stay away from Brooks Koepka, but I also really like Tommy Fleetwood. And I don't really care for Power, Seamus Power, or Harold Varner III, although Seamus is kind of like borderline for me. So I've just selected 7 golfers in the 9K range that I could legitimately play. I don't have anything against those 9K golfers. Obviously, the 10Ks, high quality. But if I'm going to cross one off right away, it's going to be Xander. And from there, I mean, I could play any of these guys. Oh, I would probably cross out Rory McIlroy. I do like Rory. I'm a huge Rory fan, but this week I just think there's too much burnout. That's a possibility. I don't think I really care to play Rory, but like Scheffler, I could just see just out of. So last week I had said at the US Open, if there's one golfer I had more faith in finishing inside the top 10, it was Rory McIlroy. He finished 5th. Sure, Scotty Scheffler finished 2nd, but I'm not disappointed with a Rory McIlroy top 5. Like something like this week, that Travelers Championship is one of the favorite tournaments for a lot of these golfers. I think Rory can burn out at this course. I think he can finish, anywhere between 5th and 20th place. I feel confident with that, but I am not super confident he finishes at the top 10 like I was last week. Conversely, Scotty Scheffler, super confident he can finish inside the top 10. I think this is a tournament where I think Scotty Scheffler's game right now is so oiled up, like it's a well-oiled machine, where he could come here and not even really care all that much to play well, and he's just going to play well. Like I think he's at that part of his game where he can just show up and finish top 10 without batting an eye. So I do like Scheffler this week. Thomas is a conundrum. I'm not sure exactly how I feel about Justin Thomas. And then Sam Burns, I think, could probably come out here and dominate this golf course. So really, like, I do like Burns and Thomas almost as much as I like Cantlay, but I just like Cantlay for the things I can do with Patrick Cantlay. JT, I just don't know. Again, he's paired up with Xander, so that's going to help him quite a bit. And I mean, Burns is in the 3rd ranked group. He could come out and win this tournament as well. I think I'm just going to go with Cantlay and just live with the results. I'm sure the optimizer finished, and it sure did. It's selected, so its number 1 9K golfer was a tie between Neiman and Power. So Seamus Power, Joaquin Neiman, it was a tie there. It picked Jordan Spieth 30% of the time and Sung J M 10% of the time, which is really interesting. Certainly doesn't help me think of the anchors in the 9K range that I want to play. It still kind of opens up the fact that I don't mind playing any of the 9K golfers. Yeah, that's difficult. It did not select Finau, Bradley, Koepka, or Fleetwood, which is very, very interesting. I guess I still don't know. And usually Wednesday is when I really narrow down and choose. There still can be withdrawals that happen prior to the start of this tournament, so that might help. If I'm recording this Tuesday night, so by Wednesday night, if one of these guys withdraws, it will make it easier for me. But I guess as it goes now, I don't know based off of the numbers. However, if I'm giving you my gut feels, I'll give you my rankings as to who I want to build my lineups around. So I think number 1 is Fleetwood. Number 2 would be Spieth. Number 3, probably Sungjae. 4 Neiman, 5 Finau, 6 Bradley, Keegan Bradley. Those are kind of how I'm feeling about how it would build. But how about this? Delete all of this. Delete all of the locks that the unique lineup builder did, and just take a look at what it would look like. What would it do if I put Fleetwood as my other anchor? What's the first lineup that pops up? Brendan Steele, Maverick McNeely, H. Lee, and Beau Hossler. I already told you I like all those golfers. Wow. Yeah, that's pretty solid. I want to do one more thing. I don't know if I want to leave that much money on the table. I'm going to go 49.5. I'll clear this out again. We have 49.5. We'll run optimizer again and see what it will select this time. Put in Coke Rack. It actually changed everything up. No 6K golfer. Fleetwood, Coke Rack, McNeely, Johnny Vegas, Mac. It actually removed. It did not. Okay, that's why. Let's try it again. It just included Hosler this time. Okay, but it did have Cagely. I don't care for Coke Rack. So let me go ahead and just say no to Coke Rack. Let me do a couple of these. No to Leishman. We already know it's not going to pick Leishman anyways. Let's see if that helps. Again, I do want to see Hosler in here because Hosler is one of my favorite 6K golfers this week. It should be no surprise. He's a lot of favorites. A lot of people's favorites this week. Interesting. Fleetwood, Aaron Wise, like that a lot. Maverick McNeely, Kevin Kisner, like I said, no issues playing him. Let's see what it'll do again. If it keeps going with Wise, I'm going to really enjoy that. This one changes to Keith Mitchell, Maverick McNeely, Cagely, and Beau Hossler. I like that lineup a lot too. So starting with Cantley Fleetwood does give you some salary, does allow you to build a little bit more freely. I want at least one 6K in my lineup. So let's see what it does now that it can't select Hosler. Who would it choose? Matt Kazire. That's interesting. 2 8Ks. I'm okay with that too. Remember, start 10-9-8, 7-7-6, and you can make substitutions from there. Make 1 or 2. Don't make 3. So, my opinion, if you want to move from a 7 to an 8, here you go. Jason Day is up there. That's a good pick. I don't mind that. So it's going to continue to do Jason Day. How about this? Let's just do 1 8K and see. I'm kind of wanting it to build a 10-9-8, 7-7-6. There we go. Sam Ryder. 2 9Ks. Does not like the 7K range, I'm guessing. All right, here's an interesting one. So it looks like McNeely, Cagely are just staples to go with Tommy Fleetwood. I'm going to go and cross out Cagely. I just want to force it to pick other golfers. Like, who would it choose based off all the bucket criteria, salary constrictions? What would it do? JT Poston. I like this. Anytime I can put Wise and McNeely together, I'm a huge proponent for. Like, I like that a lot. Now, just so you guys know, there will be max exposures. You can see those right in this column here. I'm not letting the optimizer continuously select Wise and McNeely, but the more I can see, the better. Okay, cool. Wise, McNeely, Davis. You can continue to do Davis and select Ortiz, so Davis must be the next one in line in the 7K range that it likes a lot. Okay. Okay. So I think that's probably going to be good enough. I don't need to build any more lineups than that. I just wanted to show you all of that just to see. Like Wise, and I like McNeely. So I could actually anchor down on this and just see how many different lineups it will build. Kisner, Sabatini. I just want to see what the other 2 golfers would be. Kisner, Poston. So I bet it's just Kisner. All right, here's what we're going to do. Sorry to keep you on this. I just want to see what this all looks like. Build 10 lineups. Let's see if the optimizer breaks. If it does, then that wouldn't be a good core 4 to build around, basically. Because now it's going to look at exposures. It's going to ignore all the ones that I've locked. Try to figure out what it can build. When I have another app open that's like Excel, it kind of slows down, but it's usually pretty quick. If you get it and you download it, it's going to be pretty fast. I'm going to hide it for a little bit. Here, do this quickly. just a reminder, $30 giveaway. Be subscribed, comment down below, share on Twitter. That's how you get free entries into this. Second giveaway, prize picks. Sign up using the promo code SweetSpot, put $20 in your account. I will give you $20 back, plus prize picks will match your deposit up to $100. And then obviously the cheat sheet, everything that we were talking about in this is all available. So is the optimizer that I'm building these lineups around. Gotta be subscribed, comment, all that good stuff. And then email me at SweetSpotDFS@gmail.com. Okay, so this is going too slow. If you want to exit out of this, all you got to do is click on the spreadsheet anywhere. Doesn't matter where. Just repeatedly hit the escape button. You'll get to here and just say end. Sometimes they'll ask you to stop. You can go ahead and stop and then hit end. And it'll work just fine. So these are actually pretty decent lineups. CT Pan, Luke List, Johnny Vegas, CH3. So it didn't error out, but it was just moving too slow. I did not want to waste your guys' time. So with that being said, my favorite lineup or my favorite golfers to anchor around is Patrick Cantlay and a bunch of 9K golfers, essentially. Make your pick, doesn't matter. But yeah, Aaron Wise, Maverick McNeely, I think those will also be staples in my lineup this week, and then I'll go from there. But I don't have anything else for you guys, so I'm going to bid you adieu. Thank you for watching. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, bye.